Hello, everybody, and welcome to Film Family. And today we'll be talking about the situation with Sony and Disney and Spider-Man apparently out of the M.C.U. And so I think we should just get right into this. I don't think we need to talk about the story much because there's like dozens of articles online, there's dozens of things on social media, but we do not.
How about you update me on the story?
Yeah,
I have no clue what's going on.
Apparently, they just tried to renegotiate their deal. Didn't work out. So basically, Spider-Man is leaving the MCU. So Tom Holland
is leaving because they can't negotiate a deal.
Yes.
Okay.
The term has
Disney
ended.
wanted 50% of Sony's profits, of which they usually get 5%. And many have said that's too much, and Sony wouldn't budge. And so apparently they will still be making Spider-Man movies, but it will just be not connected to the MCU, which is ridiculously weird because almost everything that has happened with the Spider-Man in the MCU is related to the MCU, obviously, because when you do things in a world, you're related to that world. So it's going to be super awkward how they handle it. There are rumors right now that they're coming back to an agreement, which would be awesome. But yeah, people are definitely mad about this. I know I'm pretty mad about it. I was excited to see what the next, especially with the cliffhanger that Far From Home ended with. And, I thought that the next movie was kind of going to put him as the Spider-Man that, is like the one we all know and love, the traditional Spider-Man. But I have no idea what they're going to do now.
Yeah, but none of that has to do with the MCU because they could realistically make a Spider-Man 3 without putting any Avengers in it.
No, yeah, it's not that.
For the past two, except for Iron Man.
Yeah, it's not just that, though, but it's like the connectivity of the world and the fact that both the villains he's had in the two movies relate to Tony Stark in some way, relate to, like, the MCU in general. And I get what you're saying. It's a good idea. It's actually what I wanted just in the regular MCU, like a more standalone Spider-Man movie, kind of his own hero. But when it kind of like, you can't not address something that you've addressed for the past two movies in like your 2-hour movie. You know what I mean? So if you have a third movie, you can't really just say like, oh, we're not going to address anything from the previous two movies. Because then it not only confuses audiences who aren't really in depth on this stuff, but it also just kind of, in general, makes it super awkward for the character and the whole story they're telling.
I mean, hasn't that kind of what Sony's been doing? Because the whole Andrew Garfield Spider-Man didn't really fit into anything, and he only had like a 2.
Yeah, but those are Sony movies.
Yeah. But I feel like Sony should get like smart and feel like they should pitch into the Avengers budget. You know what I mean? And get some of that money.
Well, this thing they were getting paid for their Spider-Man movies, and like that's why if you watch the two Spider-Man movies, like there's a Columbia logo and stuff because it's a Sony like partnership. But the thing is like. Now they're taking Tom Holland apparently, like who's already been
because he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, who's been in 2 Avengers movies in Civil War, and like been in 2 Spider-Man movies that directly relate to the MCU, and they're just gonna like do something brand new, reset his character. Like it just is super confusing, and it's just not a good situation to be in general. And so I just think it's frustrating a lot of people.
It's it's interesting because I'm not as disappointed. Maybe it's because I got my Endgame and Infinity War, and I feel like this is not a reset for Marvel anyway, going into this new phase. I think if it was mid-phase, I'd be really pissed because it's like all of a sudden, the thing for me that I really liked about the Spider-Man was the Tony Stark kind of connection, Happy Hogan, which Happy Hogan will not be in these new ones because he's Marvel. But at the same time, it's like, If it was going to be a Spider-Man movie every like 6 years or whatever, I'm kind of happy that Sony now will pump them out faster as well.
Yeah, I mean, but we also don't know that he's not going to be in the MCU anymore.
But we don't. Yeah, but we don't know is that how the like rate at which Sony puts out Spider-Man movies, because like Sony apparently wants to do like TV shows because Sony like haven't budged to Disney, and most like companies budge to Disney because Disney's the biggest company, but Sony has like been pretty stubborn with their characters that they have because they have more than just Spider-Man. Obviously, they have a lot of characters that are associated with him. So like with their new movie, they could really go a lot of ways. But if you go the Tom Holland way, people are going to be so confused. Like, it's just not a good way to tell your story because and I know there's plenty of people like who just want Spider-Man to be like his individual self. I actually am one of those people. Like I want him to not be in Tony Stark's shadow and be his own hero. But you still have to do that in the world that you've already established. You can't reset it because that's just not a good way to tell your story.
Mm-hmm. I agree with what you're saying, BG. I think, I agree in the sense that, it would be a better story if Tom Holland stayed in the MCU. But I also kind of agree with Taj where I'm not so upset about it because I think it's pretty easy for them to make a transition because they are at the end. You're going to start seeing a lot of different characters and stuff.
And I get with that, but it's not it's like they've made 2 Spider-Man movies. They both tie into the other movies around it. Mm-hmm. And the third Spider-Man movie, whatever it will tie to whatever movies come after that. And just because Endgame came out, the MCU, it's not actually taking a break. It says it was, but next year is when Phase 4 starts. They're not taking a hiatus. So films and shows too now, will just be coming in and out, always adding something to the story. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's put on hold after Endgame, and it's just going to make the next Spider-Man movie not related to anything else in the MCU, especially because both of the cliffhangers that, or after credit scenes that Far From Home had were related to things that will happen in the future Spider-Man movie or things that are related to out of the MCU. So either way, it's just a messed up situation because they have to learn how to adjust to not having that world.
Oh, plus, yeah, easily.
Yeah, and we don't even know what cast members would stay. And just those types of things are very frustrating, and it's why fans get annoyed at stuff like when the business side of things gets in the way of the creative and storytelling sides.
Oh, yeah. It is a movie business, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But I just think, if they are smart, then, Disney will not ask for 50% of the profits, which is kind of ludicrous, especially going from 5%. And Sony will, maybe just do, be a little more collaborative with Disney, maybe give them a little more money. But what I do think...
on the business side of it, I mean, if Sony's not... I don't know what the budget division is, but if Disney's putting up $350 million or however much, and Sony's only putting in $100 million, Disney should not be making 5%.
No, I don't think it's a budget.
No, I think
Disney wants 5% of the Venom, those types of movies that are directly Sony films.
Okay.
And it's those aren't your films. You didn't produce them and you didn't fund the films. So
that's just sneaky business.
It's just sneaky business to want 50% because Venom was actually a very financially successful movie. So it's all of Sony's efforts are just going to be milked by Disney, and they don't want that.
I kind of want to talk about Venom because I think that Spider-Man has the potential, and Sony does too, to make a Spider-Man cinematic universe. I thought Venom was cool.
I know, I get it. But they've been trying to. I think a lot of people forget too. In Amazing Spider-Man 2, there was this whole setup because they were going to do a Sinister Six movie that was never even given a script.
Was that Andrew Garfield one?
Yeah. Well, they were setting up for an alternate movie, and it's I love Spider-Man. I've always loved. He's my favorite superhero, and I think he's a great character, and he can have great movies. But you can't base a universe off of one character, and if you do, it's just difficult to make movies without the main character. And look at Batman. If you had a Batman cinematic universe, you'd have Batman and Robin and the Bat family people. But you never. Family. How many movies are you gonna get out of those people? You get maybe one
Deadshot
Robin movie.
Would be a cool movie.
What I'm saying is you're not getting enough movies from one character because at the end of the day, nobody wants to see a Deadshot movie or a Scorpion movie. Or
they saw a Venom movie though.
Okay,
and it did pretty well.
It did do pretty well, but that is one character who I think because Venom was already in a movie that a lot of people didn't like, that it was their opportunity to fix the movie. And regardless of what you think of Venom, because I didn't really like Venom, it's it's just that's an individual case to me. But they're not going to make enough movies to sustain a universe like the MCU, who put out literally 3 movies a year and TV shows.
I don't think anybody is going to be able to maintain the MCU because they have so many different characters that are heroes in their own right. To pull
I get what you're saying, but if the right DC could have done that if they had the right people, So what I'm saying is just Spider-Man is just too small of a little margin to squeeze all these projects out of, because at the end of the day, you're really basing off one guy, and that's Spider-Man. And how many movies are you going to get besides Spider-Man movies? Not that many. So I just think whatever they do next, it really needs to be because Sony has had very financially unsuccessful movies when especially Amazing Spider-Man 2, which didn't do great, or at least didn't do great for what it was supposed to, and was obviously critically panned. And I don't think Spider-Man 3 did as well as it was supposed to. Because clearly they've had when Sony interferes with the movie, it struggles. So I just think it'd be in the best interest of both to just kind of have their partnership and make it as fruitful as possible.
Okay, but that's one thing to say. What do you think is I mean, obviously you don't know the ins and out, but what's a good relationship for them to split profits? Like, what should
mean, the
Disney
numbers-
take? You know what I mean? Just like percentage-wise, what would you think is
Percentage-wise,
fair?
I'd say 25, maybe. Well, actually, from the Venom movies, like, I mean, I don't
For
even.
nothing. I don't think they should get anything from
Well,
that.
I think there's a reason why they do that. Yeah, I don't know business like that, but
Yeah.
it might be like maybe 10% or something. But in terms of the Spider-Man movies, I think they split it like 50-50. Obviously, Far From Home was very successful; it just made $1 billion. But like, I just don't know what the situation is financially. So, you know, I just think like Disney needs to be less stingy. You have so much money. They've had 7 or 6 movies this year that have made $1 billion. You know, and it's like Star Wars and Frozen are gonna come out too, and Maleficent. Those will probably all make $1 billion.
So you think they
don't
should
need-
split 25%, 75% to Sony for getting the Spider-Man?
No, I don't know. I think it should probably be 50-50 in terms of the character of Spider-Man, but a movie like Venom that's not directly related to individual Sony project, or like Spider-Verse, which was a Sony project, like those, I don't think that much of that money should go to Disney because Disney didn't really assist in making that.
But then, you feel free to chime in, Tosh. Do you think that Sony should be getting 50% of the Avengers movies
It's not
because
the Avengers
Spider-Man
movie.
is in it?
No. They'll get a very small take of a movie that he's not the main character in.
Oh,
it's for
okay.
like individual Spider-Man
got you.
movies.
Yeah, it's
What?
I'm in a weird position because Sony right now they do have a lot of bargaining chips as much as Disney's like the behemoth that it is. You know, Venom I think did like $800 million worldwide,
it was-
which was a
Wow.
big
Very
surprise.
nice.
I mean, I'm on BG's term, which I didn't really like it that much.
It
But
made its money.
Everyone,
You guys don't respect Tom Hardy and Venom.
everyone, a lot of people
Respect
loved
good
it, so
scripts.
I'll say that a lot of people loved it. And then this new Spider-Man is their highest grossing movie of all time.
It's the
Really?
highest grossing
So
Sony film.
if I'm Sony right now, I'm like, well, why would I, negotiate
But
with
if
you?
you if you just look at their bet, even like Spider-Verse, I don't think was very financially successful, and most people would agree that's probably the best movie that
Won an
Sony,
Oscar.
if not
Yeah.
the best, one of the best. Spider-Man 2 and 1 were both very financially successful, but that's a different time period. So the only movie you can really gauge the whole thing with is Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is financially successful because of the fact that it was a Spider-Man reboot, especially like because that was when the M.C.U. was gearing up. Then you get Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is a financial failure, and then every movie Tom Holland has been in since has made ridiculous money. Civil War made $1 billion, Endgame made $2 billion, Infinity War made $2 billion. He was in all 3 of those. Homecoming made like $800 million, and this movie's making $1 billion. So clearly people like him, but they also probably like him in the MCU setting. So how would
I
that affect
could say the
sales?
opposite though. I could say they just like Spider-Man because I could say
No. Because
we
if
won
that
the
was
Academy
case, it won
Award,
Amazing Spider-Man.
with the Spider-Man.
But it wasn't financially successful.
And-
I'm talking about a business standpoint.
and the video game was highly successful. So if I'm thinking, and that had nothing to do with Kevin Feige. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I personally would love to
Yeah.
see Spider-Man in MCU.
No, I get what you're saying,
I'm just
but
saying that
when you look at like Amazing
Sony-
Spider-Man 2,
yeah.
and that wasn't financially, like, it's not a viable option for them to keep making these Spider movies out of failures because clearly live action Spider-Man movies, they haven't had one that people pretty much all liked since 2004.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think they have
just-
to misstep first. Like I think that right now they
It's a lot of
probably think
missteps.
they're
Doesn't everybody, though, like these new ones that they've been working
That's
on?
what I'm saying. I think until there's a film, they're going to be like, oh, we got.
You're telling me it just made this much money and
Mojo
people
back.
don't
No,
like
I'm
it?
talking. That's a Disney. That's like a joint one. I'm talking about a pure Sony
pure
Spider-Man
Sony?
movie. Yeah, they haven't had one that was liked by most people since 2004. So I just think there needs to be better decision making on both sides. Also, there was like a rumor that Kevin Feige worked on Venom, which was
interesting.
weird. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Kevin Feige fan. So,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can work his magic. People are like, very mad about this, and they should be because
Even the
like,
actors.
Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. I guess people like those, whatever. But there's nothing like Spider-Man, and there's nothing you're gonna get like as important as Spider-Man. So going forward, that should be their first priority is to get him back.
And Sony's just not going to sell Spider-Man to Disney.
No, they clearly have
so
like they're
it's
clearly
a
not
whole-
going to. But
yeah.
at this point, Disney is gonna need to buy Sony.
That would just
so,
be stupid.
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, so let us know what you think. Let us know if you had to choose an unideal situation, would you rather have it go to Sony? Actually, I think that's the only
That's the
situation.
only unideal
Yeah.
situation.
And even okay.
Okay. I think the question should be more: are you okay with Spider-Man not being in the
Yeah.
Marvel
Yeah,
universe,
is it
or
not
will
a big,
that ruin
is it not a
for
big
you?
deal, or will it ruin?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good question.
is
Yeah.
that yeah.
So will it ruin it for you, and will you go see a Sony Spider-Man movie? Because a lot of people have lost trust in Sony, rightfully so. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let us know about your thoughts on that, and subscribe, and see you next time.
Adios.